City. The man known as Wild Man Brill shows me secrets he finds underfoot in local parks. This is Roker on the Road. Still ahead on Roker on the Road. Somebody who forages for food in city parks? That's wild. Actually, he's Wild Man Steve, and we'll introduce you to him when Roker on the Road comes back. We're here in New York City's Central Park, a place many call the heart of New York City. A lot of people come here to enjoy the beauty, the trees, the splendor, and they bring a lunch. But how many people do you know can actually find lunch in the park? Steve Brill can. He's a naturalist. Many people call him Wild Man Steve Brill. He forages for herbs and root vegetables, and he does it in parks in New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey. So I decided to go into the wild with the Wild Man near his home in Mamaroneck, New York. This is Steve Brill doing what he loves, explaining to children about the healthy, edible food that's literally under their noses or feet.
The leaves taste really bad unless you're a goat or an iguana.
Steve Brill is also known in these parts as Wild Man Brill.
Walk this way.
He's a forager, an expert naturalist who teaches people how to find good food that's growing all around us, free for the taking.
Does it smell good?
For about $400, he gives tours in New York area parks. Most of his customers, area schools, and private groups. Was it going to be a money-making venture, did you think, or was it just a labor of love?
Both. I needed money to live, and I certainly loved doing this. I thought there'd be people interested in the environment and nature, and it worked.
Steve is the only freelance wild man that we know of, always eager to show the world the forgotten food art of foraging. So I put on a pith helmet and joined him for a private tour of my own in a park near Steve's home in Mamaroneck, New York.
Well, we're going to be looking for smooth sumac, which you can make pink lemonade out of.
Smooth sumac. Steve is an odd but now familiar sight in parks and woodlands all over the metropolitan New York area. But it took a while for park officials to get used to it.
Some of this in our bag. Just break them off.
And now, do people mind do places, parks mind you doing this?
Well, I did get arrested and handcuffed by undercover agents for eating a dandelion in Central Park back in 1986. And that got me so much publicity that the Parks Department dropped the charges and hired me to lead the same tours. These are Winecap strophareas, incredible, delicious mushrooms.
Steve really does eat and cook what he finds. His website has a pretty good guide identifying wild edibles, and he's even written 2 cookbooks about it. These winecap mushrooms are the basis for one of Steve's wine caps and what else? Wine sauce. A little chopping, sauteing, fresh lime, wine, and voila. And check out this vegan ice cream made with those sumac berries Steve picked earlier. They've got a subtle lemony taste that he uses to make a refreshing lemon ice cream. There are lots of recipes like these in his latest cookbook, The Wild Vegetarian. Things like wild mustard seed mayonnaise, dandelion fried rice, and black walnut bisque. All of these recipes are made from things he picks in the parks. You can find stuff everywhere. My question to you is, when do we use these shovels?
Right now.
Oh.
This plant is called common evening primrose. There's one here, there's one there. I've taken Al down the primrose path.
It almost tastes like a bean sprout.
A little bit sharper, I think. A little like a radish, too.
Yeah. That's a radish beans. Like, I've had those radish sprouts. Chewing on plants in a park isn't entirely safe to do on your own. Steve says you have to check to make sure they haven't been sprayed with nasty pesticides. Then there's also the concern about plants that are poisonous.
You can eat any plant once, but you might not be around to eat it a second time. You have to identify everything with 100% certainty.
So let's review, Steve. You get to spend most of your time outdoors.
Right.
You get to eat free food. Is this a dream for you, Steve?
Oh, absolutely. I had no idea when I started doing this, going from a hobby to a profession, that it would be successful and I'd be able to do it. And my job does have a downside. I'm my own boss. If I'm in a bad mood, I yell at myself or even fire myself. But there's always a free lunch.
If you want more information, check out his website. And that's it for this edition of Roker on the Road. I'm Al Roker. Until next time, Enjoy the ride.